Now I keep saying I'm gonna sit down and write a script for these intros because I keep butchering this one. This is probably the 4th time that I've tried it. So here we go. Are you ready? Hello, and welcome back to Crudely Drawn Conclusions with David and Mike and Tre. Tre Tutson is here on this episode. He sat down with us and spoke with us for the better part of an hour and 20 minutes about stand-up comedy and his journey toward that. He is a Houston-based comedian, but he is branching out. He's going to be going around through Europe here shortly, spinning some comedy tales over there. But he works mostly in Houston, and he's going to be at Phil and Derek's on the 13th and 14th of August, doing 2 nights there. That is a club there in Houston. If you're from Houston, you probably know it. If you're not from Houston, you're probably not going to go anyway, but go ahead and check him out, 13th and 14th. And he also hosts a show called the Tutson Interruption. It's going to be on August 19th. That's at Rudyard's, also in Houston. So if you're there, go check it out. Or if you're just passing through Houston at some point, go check him out. You can check him. You can find him. It's 2021. He's a comedian, so you can definitely find him online. You can find him on the Instagrams and the Twitters and the YouTube. It's all Tre Tutson, at Tre Tutson. And he's out there. And there's some great bits online. Go check it out. I said last week I was going to bring up the old Cup of Joe link that David's been working on, where you can go find this Cup of Joe website and give us $5. You can do that if you want to. You don't have to. So go to Cup of Joe if you feel like giving us some money. I actually haven't put in my PayPal information yet, so I don't think I'm going to get any of this. But go ahead and give David some money. Give David some money. It's for a good cause. I'll use it to buy more airtime or whatever it is. Also, we have to thank Kid Quill again. I think you have to do this every time if you're using somebody's music. Kid Quill, rapper guy. Pretty good rapper. The song's actually growing on me quite a bit. We appreciate him letting us use his music for an intro. So, sit back. If you got a little time, you got about hour 20, hour 22, sit back and listen to Tre Tutson. We appreciate you tuning in. And with that, I'm going to turn over to Kid Quill's theme music and young David Chapman.
No top hits, neighbors think it's obnoxious. I'm sorry, Mrs. Anderson, but damn, you gon' have to wait until the drop hits. I forgot to take my vitamins, but didn't forget to smoke.
All right, well, we've already done it. I do a little intro separate from this, and for a while there we were doing a couple intros, but we are sitting down here with Tre Tutson, and usually David does all the talking first, but for some reason I think we flopped the roles here. But Tre Tutson, stand-up comedian based out of Houston. How you doing, Tre?
I'm doing fantastic. How are y'all, fellas?
Doing good, man.
Man, it's good to have you on here.
Y'all can hear me?
I can hear you great. I guess David, you can hear him as well.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right. So we've all established that we are actually communicating at the moment, which is good. I'm a huge stand-up comedy fan, man, and
which is the opposite of a marriage.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a surface level observation for sure, but I definitely think there's a few out there that have some good communication. I'm not going to alienate our one chick that's listening right now.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I heard your podcast. You and your wife, y'all were doing it together. Seems like y'all got some pretty good communication.
Yeah, we have I've known my wife for forever, since I was 8 years old. So it's not much that I can't say to her. It's not much that she can't say to me. We're as open and the most honest relationship I believe I have. I mean, she knows everything.
That's good, man.
So it's the longevity. Well, it's hard though. It's tough because there's times I wish I was I was with somebody that I met. Maybe when I was like 23, 24 years old, something like that. Somebody I met in college. It's easier to lie to that person. Because you're like, you don't know me.
Right. She knows all your little tricks.
Exactly. But my wife, yeah. But my wife is she's known me, pretty much all my life. So there's no secret.
I can definitely tell from the episode that I listened to when she was dismissing you left and right,
Oh,
She's not going to put up with any of your shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're actually trying to revamp it. We're gonna revamp the podcast, and I'm gonna do it with her. It's just fun. I like talking to her. She's opposite of me. She's way more raw.
Yeah. Yeah.
She has no sense of political correctness. She just
No, I can definitely tell.
she just says
Yeah.
whatever it is, and
Yeah, I was listening to your most recent episode that you put out with the XXXY. So I was listening to that one. So yeah, she's
yes,
not worried about your feelings or anyone else's feelings. Just saying what she's on her mind, which is great.
yeah, it is great unless shit gets traction. Then it's not great.
Yeah, depending on what traction you get.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, well, honey, this is crazy, but you're canceled. They don't want to hear you on no more
Is
episodes.
that something you worry about now? I mean, I know you have to a little bit, I guess.
No, no, no. No. I can't worry about losing a career I don't
Exactly.
have, or I can't worry about losing things that I don't have yet.
Say what the fuck you was going to say.
When that time comes, yeah, you deal with it, and only thing I try to do now is I try to speak from a more educated
Yeah, I understand
place.
that.
I don't necessarily say exactly how I feel, but I do try to, make sure that I do know what it is I'm talking about, rather than just speak from a place of ignorance
Right.
and and just be like I'm flippant, and that's not a
I mean,
that's not a good
That
approach.
could definitely be funny, but yeah, you can't be like that all the time because any kind of myopic, just one
No.
worldview thing doesn't really work anyway. It's not really you anyway.
True. Yeah, I've kind of kept that in check. I didn't always used to be like that. I wasn't very. I don't care. I always say what I want to say, but now I try to make sure that I'm educated on a topic. It's okay to say I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that does take some getting used to. That leaves a bad taste in your mouth for sure. But
Yeah.
So you started that, you said in 2016, basically you're doing open mics there in Houston?
Yeah, I started doing open mics. I did it one time back in 2012 for the first. That was like the first time I ever got on stage. I remember the first joke I ever told got an applause break.
Oh, you get spoiled
And,
right off the bat, huh?
That was like the most. Yeah, a lot of people when I started off, it was so hard. I'm not saying that it wasn't hard, but I didn't have like a lot of bad experiences. I think because I had probably the worst experience ever in comedy. Um, my aunt was producing this play, and this was before I was 18 years old. I just graduated high school, and that summer my aunt was producing this play, and she was like, "Hey, you know what I think would be great? I was an understudy for one of the characters. She was like, you know what I think would be great is if you would go up and you would do stand up comedy. Like you're making us laugh, throughout rehearsal and on the way to rehearsal.
Yeah.
Why don't you go up and do stand
Tight
up?"
five.
I was like, all right. I never, yeah, no. They wanted me to do 20 minutes,
Holy shit.
and yeah, this is during the intermission. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I go up, man, and I proceed to bomb
Of course.
for 20 straight minutes at a church, dead silent. People are like I could hear. I mean, I could hear everything. I could hear people giving up on me.
Damn.
Just like you can just hear the breaths of like sighs, and
Yes.
you can hear people bone crack as they fold their arms.
Right.
And I got off stage, and I had this little dressing room I was in, and I went up there and I cried for the remainder of the play. I just went and sobbed because we had another show. That was the matinee, so we had another show, and I went out and I was like, "This sucks so bad," and it was the most humiliating moment, and like the most humiliating thing that happened to me at that point. And the next show, I had to do for the admission. I did a little bit better. I was like, I'll never do stand up again. I hate comedy.
How old were you when you did that?
Such the dumbest thing ever. I was 18.
18. Yeah.
And
18's a hard
bombed,
gig, too, because
But
they...
then the next time I did it, go ahead.
No, I was just saying 18's a hard age, too, because they have no sympathy for you. If you're 12 or something, they might laugh a little bit just because you're that young. But 18, they're like, fuck you, whatever.
Well, granted, at 18 I looked 12.
Sure.
but I don't know if y'all can tell. I'm not a very, a very big. I mean, I've gotten fatter. I look terrible on camera. Somebody did that the other night. Took a picture of me on stage. Look, man, I took pictures. I was like, I need you to burn your phone. Like, I need you to like just dismantle. I need you to Tom Brady your phone, please.
Well,
Get rid of all of this.
I guess you do have to realize this
terrible.
is 2021 and you are in showbiz, so you do have to have to get kind of used to that, man. But that's good. You've bombed your
Yeah, I
first
look
time,
terrible though.
and then several years later, you went up
Yeah.
and you actually
That's
succeeded.
Yeah, the second time I went up, I was 20, and then first joke I told, I got an applause back. It was just 3 minutes, and I was just like, all right, and I did pretty good. A lot of people were like, man, you did really good, blah blah blah. It was like, that was your first time ever? I was like, yeah, and I didn't know what to do after that.
Right.
I didn't know how to go up. I didn't know how to get better. I didn't know anything, so I just worked, and then in 2016, I went out and I just went to an open mic, and then some guys was there. I was like, man, you gotta come with me to this next mic, and then come with me to this next mic, and then I started learning where all the mics were at. Like, oh, okay, this is okay, and then that's when I actually like started doing stand up, and I kind of haven't looked back.
No, that's great, man. I mean, so
Yeah.
how many?
Have you done it
Go ahead,
most
David.
of the
I'm
time
sorry.
here in
I'm just
Houston?
dominating this shit.
Oh, you're good, man. You're good. Have you
What's
done
up,
it
David?
most of them here in Houston, or do you go just all over the states?
Yeah, I've been able, as of recently, I've been able to travel. I have traveled, and more travels coming up. Luckily, to the dude, to Slay Ham, I really appreciate him. The end of September through October, I go to Europe. We're doing 5 countries
Wow.
there: Belgium, England, Netherlands, Germany, and you know what? I always forget whatever the fifth one is, but over
Yeah.
there, I do this every time,
Right.
and I always have to say it like 5 times to remember all 5 of the countries. But yeah, but we're going over there, and Poland is the fifth country,
Poland.
and I can't wait to go over there and have a good time. Yes,
That's great, man.
um,
Getting some exposure
we'll be over there for a
worldwide.
month.
So,
Yeah, I guess.
I guess
Well,
so. I
one
mean,
thing.
from 16. Go ahead, David.
No, one thing I was gonna add, you were talking about how you bombed that first time. In a video I watched, or maybe it was on your podcast, you mentioned, I think, a show you did in Conroe, and how you ended up walking off the stage, and how, a disrespectful audience and stuff like that. I was kind of curious to hear a little more about
Of
that.
what happened? Yeah, we can talk about that definitely. Did this show for some friends of mine. I had been up there about 2 or 3 times, and I didn't know this, but they had incidents with black comics. I do a lot of shows where I end up being the diversity hire for the show. That's how. That's most times I'll open up my set. How you doing? I'm your diversity hire for the show because I'm I'm sometimes the only black person at the
Wow.
show, and well, they had been booking like that, and a lot of black comics had trouble up in Cairo. I didn't know this leading up to that, and I was there, and I have this joke, the story that I tell that's partially true about getting pulled over and getting out of a DUI, and the basis of the joke is basically just. Um I like white privilege because I have benefited from white privilege. Because I have gotten out of a DUI. This cop stops me. You know what I mean?
That
So
didn't
this
play
cop
well, did
stops
it?
me and asks me, "Hey, you say what?"
I
Sorry,
said in
what'd you say,
Conroe
Mike?
that it probably didn't play well. They probably got deeply offended right off the bat.
Right? No.
Fucking.
So they enjoyed it up to this point. This story normally doesn't good, but that's really funny. So they're enjoying it. They're like, so I was like, this cop pulls me over. He stops me, and I won't say the word, but I'll abbreviate. He goes, "Have you been drinking tonight?" I go, "Yeah." And I said, "What do you think?" He goes, "I think you finna blow into this breathalyzer." So I blow into the breathalyzer. He says the thing to me, and he goes, "All right, so you haven't been drinking." So I said, "What's gonna happen next?" He said, "You finna get out of the car, N-word boy." Right? But I usually say the word. And
Right.
he proceeded to call me this throughout the entire arrest. Right? He called me like 50, 60 times. And the whole thing of it is that he says it so much that he ends up writing it on the ticket.
Right.
And I don't know until I get to court. Then when we get to court, the judge is there, and they're like case number, and they say the case number for the people versus, and then they say, and then it's that's written on there. Well, what
I
happened in
got you.
Conroe was people kept saying the word. And like it's almost like you're finishing the sentence, which I get. But I had asked like,
Oh
but
man.
prior to that, I said I love white privilege, right? Like I love white
Right.
privilege, and this lady yelled out something about white privilege. Her defense of white privilege was, it's not about privilege. I have a gay son and a black son. I'm like, well, what the fuck? What is that? What are you talking about? What does that even mean? Like, I don't even know how. What? So because you have that, like, you understand the struggles of
Right.
people that are a part of ethnic groups, or what are you saying? So I got into this argument with white people about everything. About I just went into this back and forth with all these people there, and I'm just like, what is happening right now? Like
Yeah.
this is crazy. Like y'all are arguing with me about injustices and like this is crazy. So then I go tell that story, and they were interjecting with that, and then this one dude goes, "Hey, I got a question. Did he write it in all caps?" And then I just put the microphone in the stand and I walked off.
Yeah. That's
And
you.
yeah,
You don't want to create
never
like
done
a
that before ever.
right. Yeah, man. You don't want to create like a Larry the Cable Guy catchphrase in Conroe where they're finishing your bits for you,
Yeah,
especially with that. And it's, I mean, sometimes when people
yeah,
listen to stand up comedy, they think that everything that you're saying is just like from memory, and it actually all happened. Instead of it's a bit, it's a joke that you've written based
yeah.
on life and interjected with to make it even more funny. But you get a crowd like that, man.
Yes.
Not
And
that I fucking
the
know.
story is partially true.
Sure.
Like that didn't happen to me. I was 19. I got pulled over. I hadn't been drinking or anything like that, but the cop pulled me over. He called me. I mean, I can't even remember. It was like 30 something times.
Wow.
And I did go to jail that night. I went to jail for no seatbelt. And dude, this is how crazy it was. The cop just like they didn't even tow my car. They like when I was getting released, they just gave me my keys and everything, and my car was like parked outside the police station. So I just like somebody he called for backup like or whatever. Somebody like just drove my car to the police station.
Well, I mean, really,
My
that was kind of
seat was
polite.
all the way back. Yeah, it was like polite, but they was like, "It was just gonna mess with this dude tonight."
Oh, small town fun,
Wow.
man. Small town fun, I guess, out in
Small town
Conroe.
fun.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
So, but
did you get pulled over here in Houston, or was it kind of in one of the suburbs?
I was in. I'll tell you guys. I was in Deer Park, Texas. That's
Deer
that's
Park.
why I do
Okay.
it. I was in Deer Park, and never again. I joke about it. And it was I try to make light of, it, but I tried to create this bit that's like the irony that it's based in irony that I say that I benefit from white privilege when really the only way to truly as a black person kind of benefit from white privilege is for some sort of racism to take place. Like so it ends up not even being the benefit of privilege at all. The only privilege that's wrapped in it is that the cop was able to call me all of that and still keep his job.
Right.
Like it's all these different layers that's attached to it, and sometimes people just only hear the word and they're laughing at
Yeah.
the word, and it's just a fun. And I've had crowds love it, and they like and like some crowds get it and they laugh and
Hmm.
they enjoy it, and in other crowds, the joke has never not done well. It's just sometimes I have to worry about people saying the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do
And
you do you
And that's a tough spot to
do you
be
have
in.
that sometimes where you get heckled or you get a lot of crowd interaction that is kind of maybe not appropriate or not what you want to hear or whatever, or do you just try to play kind of play off what they're saying the best you can?
I mostly try to play off what they're saying the best I can. I do really subscribe to the idea that most people in the crowd they came to have a good time, and even if they're yelling out something, it's them having a good time. And I never want to ruin someone's night.
Hmm.
People made plans. They did stuff so that they could be there that night. and maybe they've had a little bit too much to drink or whatever the case may be. So I try to have fun with whatever is said. I'll even open up for just a dialogue between whoever yelled out what with something that I said or something. Let's come on. Let's. I'm fine with that, but I don't usually get uh, anything in a other than and even in that, even with them saying the word, it's them finishing the line that that I've made easy for a person to get. They're finishing the line, and it's just I love crowds that just laugh at that part because they know like, oh yeah, we can't say this.
It's, I mean,
we can't say that word. We know what he said, but we can't say it. So yeah, did that answer your question, bud?
Oh yeah. No, I appreciate
well,
that.
I mean, yeah,
Okay.
because you see all the time online, and I've read about things and listened to different podcasts about different comedians about how they handle hecklers, and sometimes they want to control them and squash them right off the bat. Sometimes they incorporate them into the show. It just kind of depends on where they're coming from as a heckler.
Depends on how you're working, from what I've gathered. So like, let's say like you have something that you're really trying to hone, you're really trying to get tight.
Sure.
You're trying to get the rhythms of this down. You want to go up and just work. Somebody heckles or they step in the middle of that, you'll shut them down. Depends on where people heckle at, too.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll be right before the punchline, which is the worst, because you just sucked all the life out of the bit. Other times, and it also depends on what's being said. That's why I said most times people are saying stuff to have a good time. I haven't had any. I got one heckle that's been sticking with me for about a month now. Where I'm gonna be at this weekend, which is I'll say it here. I hate this room. I hate it with a passion. I hate it. I hate performing at this place. I really do. The clientele is just It's an audience that makes me uncomfortable. It's like bougie.
Oh God.
It's like bougie black women, but it's not even really. It's like they're affluent in their mind. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
like
I completely
it's
understand.
like, yeah, I'm the only person in my family with a Nissan Altima. I
Exactly.
made it, and it's like in their minds that they're wherever they're at, and they're at this place that's a black owned place. It's like fine dining, but people come dressed up, like super dressed up,
Oh,
and
man.
it's just their attitude is just not really. It's not conducive to comedy.
Right.
It's like they're just sitting there with their arms folded, like impress me.
Entertain
And
me now. Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I went up. I remember this guy showed up, and he had just got out of prison, and it was his first time going on stage, and he brought most of the people that were there, or a good portion of them, and he went up and he was just talking about being in prison, and it was whatever. It went over fine. It was a cool night. It was my first time going up. It was awesome, right? So I had to like go up after this dude, and I was like working on material. So it's not going over
Yeah.
well, but I was like, all right, well, let me tell a joke that'll get him on my side, so I could get into this thing that I really want to do. And I told that joke. That joke went over fine, and I'm working on this stuff. And then the set's like not going well. And this dude that was sitting in the front, that was with the guy that just got out of prison, he just goes, you've only had one joke work. That's a heckle that stings forever. Like,
Completely accurate.
don't be that accurate with my failure. You know what I mean? Like, how did you? That's too precise.
Oh my!
No,
Did you say anything to him?
That's like, I mean, I was like, I just was like, I didn't say nothing. I was like, well, all right. Like, I couldn't say nothing. I think about what I wanted to say to him, and it's not good. It would have. I'm to a point now where like, if I get angry on stage, I'm having a hard time not making it funny. If I'm really mad
Yeah.
Yeah.
about something that happened in the room, it's not gonna turn into something funny. I'm gonna be that guy. I would have just said a lot of evil things, and
Well, Big J,
and,
Big J Okerson.
he was definitely not built. Go ahead.
Yeah, Big J. Okerson has a little bit about that where he says, in that type of room, in that type of environment, you can't work out shit. You just got to put on a show or you're going to get booed off the fucking stage. I mean, so it's like that's not really a very friendly place to try to work your material out, which sucks, because you're trying to get as many gigs as you can to get as sharp as you can.
Well, it's an open mic. So, it's like, all right, that's what I got to use this mic for. Can I get this stuff that I've worked on? Can I figure out a way to get it to work in here with these people but it's like one of those feelings you just like, did y'all come for the show or did y'all just come out to eat? What happened? Like, this is fucking stupid. I could have just did stand up at a Wendy's.
Yeah. No, I was kind of wondering about that so you're talking about this. Is it Phil and Derek?
Yeah. Phil and Derek.
Okay.
And
yeah.
it's a...
Yeah. So is that... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No. You're for the ask something. I keep cutting you off. My bad.
Yeah. No, so is the crowd on Friday and Saturday, is it kind of mixed? Like some people come for comedy and the other come for just like the restaurant and kind of the lounge aspect, or is it just kind of a mixed crowd when it comes to
I would tell you what I
think
happens. I think it's a mixed crowd in this regard. I think, I don't know what this room holds. Let's just say the room holds 50 people. Right? It holds 50 people. And there, another thing, don't sit people for comedy. Don't sit them comfortably. Okay? You shouldn't be in some cushiony ass fucking VIP booth. I don't like that. I don't like why people shouldn't sit down like they made it. You should be sitting in a chair. This should feel like an assembly. It's
like bleachers or something.
Yeah, damn near you want them in those high school bleachers. Like, just something. There should be gum underneath there. There should be notes. There should be some struggle attached to this damn seat. But they sit people in these dictator booths, and it's what is that? Like, you get that I don't even know how to even do, but you just start feeling superior. You just start feeling above people. Like, yeah, I could.
You're never going to kill there because you're never going to be the show. You're just going to be a small part of the experience, whereas comedy should be the show. Yeah. You're just going to be an afterthought.
Yeah. So I feel like
that sucks.
So I feel like it's mixed in this regard. Let's say they hold 50 people. 10 people came to enjoy the show, but unfortunately, they're not fucking sitting together. So it's all over the place. Right? There is 10 scattered, showered fans of comedy. And then the other 40 people, I really believe, they didn't want to wait next door because Philadelphia is split. It's split in half. They didn't want to wait next door to go eat. So they go, hey, what's going on here? They go, it's a comedy show. Y'all serve food in here? Yeah, all right, we'll come in here just to sit out. And they look at the setting and go, oh, yeah, you can just sit right here. Yeah, because the show is the goddamn food orders.
That's
you don't want to. I don't want to be on stage and know that they left off your wings. What are my wings? Like, that shouldn't. Right. What the fuck? That's something I hear every time I'm there.
Yeah, I mean,
excuse me.
I really do, because I appreciate comedy for comedy. I appreciate it for it's like my favorite thing. I listen to it all the fucking time. So to think, I can picture the room that you're talking about, and they're just talking amongst themselves and drinking and eating. Meanwhile, you're trying your best.
It's a well lit hookah lounge.
Oh fuck!
I don't want to shit on this place. I just hate this place. Like, what I mean by that is like, it's a little more intimate. Most hookah lounges is like spaced out. I'll never do a hookah lounge again.
Yeah.
I don't give a damn. I'm not doing those. They're all spaced out. You just feel like this. Fuck this. How socially distanced is this gonna be? Like it's just spread out all over the place. People are doing hookahs, and it's just like you give people an opportunity to be in their own world, like to do their own thing. Like, this is supposed to be like intimate. We should be close together. It should be, and the show is just like I'm just like. So I have because of that room, I've adopted like a new attitude. Like, I apologize if I'm if I'm kind of, but I'm like I've been angry for the last few months since it's fucking doing that room. Like,
fine.
It's really bothered me, and it's kind of peppered its way into my growth. Now I write differently now, and I have a totally different approach to how I'm starting the show off. Um, and it could be for the better, but let me
And
relax.
as far as anger is concerned, anger is always welcomed on this show. If you ever go back and listen to any of these episodes, you'll see that there's some anger in there, which quickly dissipates. So that's fine. And I was going to ask you about how you actually write, whether you sit down and you write out your bits and then you take them and you work on them, or if they kind of come to you and you kind of free flow them. And I'm sure it's a profusion of both. It's still probably both. You put them both together.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I haven't done that I used to do, which is I don't know if I'm suffering from this or even if it was necessary. I don't know. I used to write 2 hours every day. I write an hour in the morning, then I write an hour after I in the afternoon before I would go out to go do mics. And nothing I wrote down was good. You would just be writing down terrible ideas. And there's different exercises I do. I'll journal just to write how I'm feeling, and then I'll actually try to like write jokes. I like short one-liner sort of jokes. Um, that'll eventually probably be you know ideas later. But I mean,
Yeah.
pretty much every bit I've ever done, it's just something that came to me in conversation because that's the things that I feel truly make people laugh. It's the things that we talk about and
Mm-hmm.
then what sort of gets created out of just those regular conversations that you have. So it's really that if I'm hanging with people or if I'm hanging around or I'm observing stuff, then I could come up with bits. Also, my show I do, the Touching Interruption, that show helps me. I actually come up with a lot of material because of that
Mm-hmm.
show.
Yeah, David was David. I guess you could
Because
take on this because you were mentioning that show. Where are you doing that show, or is it just vary by the venue?
every third Thursday at Rutgers Pub, 2010 Waugh Drive in the Montrose area. We do that every third Thursday. So the next one I have is August 19th. I think it starts at 7:30 p.m., which I have to change that, but I still like at least until the fall, or, until daylight savings time. I don't
Sure.
want to start a comedy show when it's daylight outside. That's why I'll never do stand up in Alaska. Uh,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it starts at 7:30 p.m. and the show's cool, man. I mean, comics go up and they do a set, and then we riff, and it turns into it's a lot of things that it can turn into. But a lot of people have done the show and had new bits that they've done. It's a way to sort of like create material with a buddy, with an audience, in front of you, so
Sure.
you get the direct reaction of what it's gonna be, and it is a writing exercise for me because I get to watch people like go up and I get to tag their stuff, and then I might even come up with a whole other angle on my own, and so it's a fun experience.
Yeah. So you were saying, oh, yeah, you were saying like after the bad experience, it sort of changed the way that you write or the way you approach things. Like how so? Do you feel like just the way you structure your stand up, or just like the things you talk about altogether?
Uh, it's affected my performance. So I'll give you an example. So now, what I'll tend to do now is I'll have a conversation with somebody before the show, whether it's on the phone or in person, just a patron, anybody. I'll find somebody that looks interested and I'll just start talking to them. And I'll most times try to take something that's within that conversation and I go straight on stage with it. And I I spin it in a way that I'm irritated about it. And I'll riff
Mm,
on and I'll let it lead into all these different other spots until I'm ready to do jokes. And then I'll do my jokes from that emotion, from that feeling. So I'll give you an example.
mm,
I'll tell you something that happened. One night I'm out and my wife shows up. My wife's upset with me. Like she pops up, she surprises me. Uh, which I hate when she surprises me because it's me. She's trying to catch me in the act of cheating, and I'm like, well, I'm just too good at this.
Right.
So, so, so she would show up like, hey, what's up, mama? And we got into a bit of a back and forth, and she was really upset with me, and she's like, we're getting a divorce. I'm done. leaving, we're getting a divorce. And she walks across the street to get in the car to go home. And right as she says that, the person goes, hey, you're next. This person is getting off. I go upstairs. I go right on stage. And I was just like, how you guys doing? Y'all all right? Yeah. I was like, yeah, I've been married for like 6 years. It's over with. It's done. You know what? We're getting a divorce. And I just started talking about my side of the marriage. And I did that for 20 minutes. And a lot of people said they're like, that was probably your best show. I ended up doing like 48 minutes. But the first 20 minutes was just me getting all of it off my chest. I told everything.
Wow.
And I made fun. I made it funny, but it's something that I couldn't duplicate
Right.
because it was like
Yeah.
it was what I was in. The only thing I could try to do is get into that space with other things that irritate me right before I go up. And then it makes all the prepared material better because I'm
Yeah.
actually able to like breathe life into it.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to
Wow.
manufacture
So
it, the first time. But once you kind of get the idea for it, I guess you could just, if you could use that bit for the future, it's never going to be quite the same, but maybe you can distill something from it where you could use it.
yeah, and I just gotta. It's just repetition. It's something new. It's a new place. I'm nervous all the time now because of it. Because it's all growing pains. It's all me getting closer to
Yeah.
like truly separate myself.
Right.
I can feel myself getting closer to authenticity. So I can't shy away from it. I can't back up. I can't be a coward in that situation. I have to just face it head on and be like, all right, well, this is what's happening. Like right now, I'm in an angry phase. I'm gonna, I'm gonna use it to my benefit, and
Mm-hmm.
and not cheapen myself in the process.
Yeah, because you're 5 or 6 years
Yeah.
in. You're still trying to figure out. I mean, you know who you are inside, but you're trying to figure out what kind of voice you're going to represent, and it's going to go back and forth depending on who you are at that time. Just like all the comedians kind of vary along the way. How many spots are you doing a week now?
I probably get up about 5 times a week. I could get up way more, but I'm probably on average getting up about 5 times a week. But it varies. The stage time is different. Sometimes I go up, I'm doing 20, 30 minutes, 10 here, sometimes 7. I mean, I'm pretty much to a point where I could go up and if I wanted to, I could just do 10 to 15 minutes every time I went up.
Yeah.
If I just said I'm hogging the stage. Most people that do well, just because most people are like, yeah, I don't care, sure. Like they're not, they're gonna let me do it. If in an open mic because you know the ratio. It's like, all right, all night we probably got 7 good comics out of a possible 20 something that's going up.
Sure.
If we got one comic that wants to go over that's doing well or they're working through something or they're being interesting, but most people don't care.
Go
How
ahead.
how is Houston as far as a comedy scene goes, or is it decent, or have you been to better cities that have better clubs and a better scene for that?
Houston is one of the best cities to develop in. If you're trying to become a comedian, I would say Houston is a great place because one, the crowds are tough, but they're not only tough, they're diverse. So you get a chance to make everybody laugh, which is the goal. But you get a chance to practice in front of making everybody laugh, and also you get a chance to go up in front of people that won't laugh at everything, and they're not as patient. And you gotta sort of go up and be a bit of a gunslinger. You gotta bring the thunder. You know, when you go up, there's no easy rooms in Houston. There's no easy shows. You gotta bring it. You gotta go up and prove that you're funny, and it actually, to me, it makes you better when you go to other places. You find that those places are a lot easier. I love Austin as a comedy scene because the crowds are so attentive. They're very forgiving. They're very patient. So if you if you're fairly decent, you're gonna get a real good reaction because the your style is different. Just the styles being different as far as the pacing of comics. A lot of Austin comics are
Yeah.
they have long drawn out
More
ideas
alternative
that
scene. Yeah.
they tell longer jokes or longer stories for a big payoff at the end.
Yeah.
Versus if you're quicker, you're gonna make the audience laugh at a different pace than they're, I don't want to say trained at level, but just what they're probably used to seeing regularly. This is just from my own experience. I don't know, but there's other places. I mean, probably the thing that's made me the happiest is knowing like being funny away from Houston, being funny out of just that inner
Mm-hmm.
loop has really that really made me feel good because that's to me that's the true test of if you're funny,
Yeah, because you're like under a barrage,
if you
like you
actually
said.
can be in the business.
When you're in Houston, like you always, I'm just saying, like when you're in Houston, you constantly have to make them laugh because they're not going to be forgiving of you most of the time. They want to be entertained. They're not trying to help
Yeah,
you out and help you grow your material. So when you go to a place like Austin, you can
not
actually
at
just
all.
fuck around with it for a while, and then they're much more forgiving of you, just like you said, and you can play around with it. But if you did that all the time, you wouldn't be as sharp as you are. I wouldn't think.
1,000% true. It's a balance, and you need to go to places like Austin where they are forgiving because it gives you chances to work in silence. It gives you chances to it gives you a chance to maybe put together a bit or just even present an idea that might take longer to get to the payoff.
Yeah.
And you need those opportunities to do it in front of people that will allow you to do it. So that when you go to present this in a place where they're not so forgiving, hopefully the pressure and and sort of the that feeling from from a live crowd, it'll cause you to punch it up quicker and add more
Yeah.
laughs into that.
Yeah, and
So yeah.
is there a particular like set of comedy or comedians that you were like really identified with? When did you want to be a stand-up comedian, and who kind of influenced you? I mean, I know there's 1,000 of them, but like your biggest ones.
I could, yeah, the base of it. Well, to be honest with you, I didn't know if I was gonna be a comedian or not. Everybody around me told me I was going to be a comedian. I remember I was in the eighth grade. I had this teacher, Doug Brown. He was my math teacher. I was failing his class so terribly. He was like, "Hey man, why don't you just drop out and do comedy?" Like he was dead serious though.
Wow.
It was
Fucking
him
realist, huh?
and this guy named yeah, and it was him and this guy named Cal Jurek and uh Anthony Bernabides. I think that was Mr. Bernabides' first name. And they used to mess with me every day. They would mess with me every day in their class to get me going so I could go on these. They loved seeing me be funny.
Right.
And they told me my whole life. They knew me pretty much watched me, all the way till eighth grade till I graduated. They told me I was gonna be a comedian. They were like, yeah, you're gonna be a comic. All my friends told me that. Everybody told me that. Everybody pretty much was like, you're gonna be a comedian. And I had watched a lot of comedy. I watched a lot of comedy. I had every Houston comic I saw on TV growing up. I saw Ali Sadiq on TV. I saw Sadiq on Def Jam. I
Mm-hmm.
saw Ali Sadiq on Comic View. I saw Ali. I saw all those guys. I saw Bob Bickerstaff when he did Gotham. Um, I mean, yeah. If you Houston comic, I saw Blame the comic when he was on a show called Coming to the Stage that was on BET. I saw every Houston comic. And I was very inspired by a lot of this,
Yeah.
but so I watched all of it. I watched all the black comedy. I watched all of it, and had seen all of it. I was kind of thinking about doing it because I wasn't in college anymore, and and I was just kind of living. I remember I was staying at my parents' house. My parents had a rule. We couldn't watch, not really a rule, but it was like those unwritten rules in the house where it's not, it's you're not breaking a rule, but if you do it, there's like this weird sense of shame that's in the
Yeah.
house. And that rule for us was watching white people on TV. I swear to God, that was the thing. That was
I'm
the
the same
unwritten
way.
rule of the house. It was just
I have the same
yeah,
rules here.
this guy. Yeah, so it was like uh, we couldn't watch. We just could. I couldn't watch. I'm a big hockey fan. I used to have to sneak and watch hockey all the time. Um, Swear to God, this is real. Like stuff that happened. I remember once one of my favorite movies of all time is Tropic Thunder, and I remember my dad heard the
Oh, I love
movie
it.
and he came in and it was a scene where Robert Downey Jr.'s character and Brendan T. Jackson are hugging and talking, and he's telling him the theme song to the Jeffersons like as like motivational words. So my dad opened the door. That's the scene he saw. He was like, "Oh, okay. I thought you was in here watching some white shit." And he closed the door. I'm like, "Dad, you don't even know one of these guys is in blackface. Like, it's like you'd be very disappointed in this movie."
Oh my
So I was
God.
watching. So that was all I had. And one night, I stayed up late and I was sneaking, and not sneaking, but I was just flipping through like HBO, whatever. Probably flipping back and forth from soft porn to whatever the hell. And
Sure.
yeah, right. And my and then I saw the whitest man I had ever seen in my life. I had the rebellious. I never get that rebellious feeling inside. Like, to hell with y'all rules. Tonight, I'm finna watch the whitest man I've ever seen. And it was Bill Burr's Half Hour
There
on
you
HBO.
go.
He was extremely pale. He was it was the whitest man I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah, he's
up
Irish.
to that fucking point.
He's fucking redheaded
And
Irish.
yeah, I redheaded Irish dude, and I'm sitting there, and I'm watching the stuff, and I'm just watching like, oh, okay, like I'm enjoying it, like still loving comedy, but not quite understanding it. And I remember he did this bit on there and about how the Pope, there almost was a black Pope, and he was like, man, I really wish that Pope would have been black. I really wish we'd have got that black Pope. Not for any of the religious reason, nothing like that. I just wish we would have had that black Pope. Just so I could go down to the comedy club and see all the black comedians down there, like, oh, white people scared now. Yeah, white people scared now. Yeah, the Pope is black and shit. And he starts doing this whole black versus white bit on if the Pope was black. But he's doing it. It's satirical, but he's he's mocking
Oh,
it.
I've seen it.
He's mocking the style of it. Yeah, you see this bit, right?
Oh, yeah.
So up to that point, that was all I knew stand up was. That was all I had ever seen.
Right.
So in my mind, I'm thinking like, yeah, that's what I'll do if I like. I'm thinking that, and when I saw him do that bit, it changed my whole perspective. It changed everything. Like it changed how I watch comedy. It changed everything. I saw him do that bit. 2 months later, I moved. A few months later, I moved out of my parents' house. I got Netflix, and I watched every single white comedian. I watched that like I watched every single comic that was not black for about a year. That's all I did. I just watched and listened and watched, and just like it really like, and then that's when I got introduced to like the whole other side of comedy. Like, holy
Yeah.
shit! Okay, so you don't have to talk about this if you just want to do a bit about a beer can. This is how you do the bit about a beer can. Like, damn, this is what I want to. This is it. And then after that, that's when I like got into comedy. Like, okay, I'm gonna do this now, because there's this other way that I would like to do it. You know, it does exist. Like,
Yeah.
this is how it's done.
And it's kind of interesting that you had that experience where your dad was like, "No, fuck those white people. You're not watching those." But mine was kind of the reverse of that. I'm not that I'm a stand-up comedian, but I started out listening to like guys like regional guys like Jerry Clower and Jeff Foxworthy, because probably a little bit older than you, but back then it was all on tapes and shit. And then I listened to that, and then later on, my dad rented Eddie Murphy's Delirious, and he had it on VHS.
Okay.
And then I snuck one night when I was about 11 years old and put it in there, and I was hooked from there. So I'd never seen anything like that. So I went Delirious and Raw,
gotcha.
and then I went back and forth. So I've always had the kind of a good base. I've had all the white, black, Latino. So it's all different sides. But once you watch it for a long period of time, you realize that there is certain material that won't work in certain clubs and certain places, no matter what, because you got to change your act a little bit depending on where you are. Unless you're like a huge headliner, when you just do what the fuck you want, like Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, and 1,000%. And I mean, I watched everything, and just really, I can't explain it to you. And I'm very grateful for that. I got to meet Bill Burr one time. He was at Jesse H.
Nice.
Jones, and watched it. Yeah, I got to meet him after the show and stuff like that. Like, not a crazy conversation. Conversation might have lasted about 12 seconds. He just came out and he was like greeting a few people that had just stayed around. and I was like, hey man, you're gonna. I was like, how you doing? I'm a young comic. I just want to say, you're gonna be responsible for 80%, of the next generation of comics. And he just goes, ha, ha, go fuck yourself, like in the classic Bill Burr, the classic
Fuck
Bill Burr
yourself.
voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just like, yeah, go fuck yourself.
Well, I mean, he's part of the
I was like,
pantheon
all
now.
right.
Yeah, he's up there with Carlin, and
Yeah,
he's going to be up there with Carlin and all the other guys, and all the Richards, and so yeah,
yeah,
he's part of
he's
that.
amazing. Like I mean, yeah, man, that's like it changed my whole life. That whole it changed everything, man. So I don't know. I'm just like great. So that's like probably my biggest. And then there's other people I'm obviously influenced by, like Kevin Hart and you know like Eddie Griffin, and like
Yeah,
that was a big influence. And just all the black comics I grew up watching and all of that, like tons of them.
I love Eddie
But
Griffin.
the yeah, man, Eddie. Well, I won't say on here, but
No, he hates
let's
me,
just
but
say
I
don't
mean,
that
I love,
that
I love
that
him.
classic "Don't ever meet your heroes."
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I could see that. I could definitely see that.
you know what I mean? But yeah, but I'm very grateful. Like people ask me that, it's like yeah, it was watching Bill Burr really just watching that special that changed everything for me.
That's great, man. I mean, I
So
think that you have to be able to separate what they do and who they are. If you just appreciate, like with Eddie Griffin, if you just appreciate what he does on stage, but then you meet him and he's a shit human being, well, that's two separate things, right? To me, it
yeah,
is.
yeah. It's a separate thing. You just it's I mean it's obviously still disappointing,
Yeah,
but it's just one thing you realize. Like I started realizing it's like you love these people. They're as great as they are. Some of them you would even call a genius, but a lot of times you don't realize how insane that person is to be that genius. Like
right.
how insane they are. I mean, even think about that. I was talking about this, like even like Dave Chappelle. They call Dave Chappelle a genius, right? And the one big thing that Dave can't stand, that he holds on to dearly, is when the media called him a crackhead. But then Dave will do crackhead shit. But then it's like, okay, you're like, hey, Dave, what's the most recent thing that you did? Oh, for one of my birthdays, I drove a motorcycle from Ohio to Austin. It's like, yeah, that's crackhead behavior. Like that's something. That's not something you're gonna do on a sober. You did it with a sober mind. That's okay. I have no idea what's happening.
Well, I mean, if you think about music, if you think about art, all the art and all the music and all the comedy we love is probably not performed by the most stable of individuals, or at least they allow that part of themselves to do that. And it's like you were saying,
Yeah.
if you meet the person, you're not. You may want to hang out with them just for the fact that they put out something you love. They made something you love. But if you met, say, you went back in time and you met
Yes.
Ernest Hemingway, that guy was a fucking asshole. He was a racist fucking asshole, but he wrote some
Yeah.
really good
What he
books.
drunk like all the time?
Yeah, he was a complete
He was
alcoholic.
drunk all the time.
Yeah, and he was full of himself. He just loved himself more than anything else. And some of the greatest artists in the world are like that, because they actually think they're the best of all time.
Yes.
I don't think Bill Burr's like that, though.
Which is what makes their. Well, I have no idea. I mean, he's very. I mean, he talks openly about being like sort of a lunatic, like sort of a
Yeah,
person of So I think he's a. I wouldn't know. I mean,
yeah.
from what I met, he was cool, but at the same time, anybody is too much over a course of time.
Sure.
If you're with somebody over a course of time, you're like, Jesus, all right, this is becoming a bit much.
Well, I got a question for you. So,
Of course.
speaking of like drugs and alcohol and stuff, do you ever perform, or do you perform sober? Do you like to have a few drinks in you before? You smoke before, or what do you like to
I
do?
used to didn't do anything. I should never. I was the squarest. I was very square, but like I now I drink. I'll have like a couple beers or something before, something like that. I because now there's a space in which I'm trying to get to. Like there's a feeling I'm trying to tap into, and
Hmm.
I don't usually like. I don't do any drugs though. I don't do
Hmm.
coke. I don't smoke. I don't really do anything. I'll I'll drink a little bit, and it depends on the show. Sometimes I
Yeah.
need it to get. I'm like, ugh, like I'm extremely uncomfortable. I'll need the drink to sort of just help me not care and get me out of my head. I'm a overthinker. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
Have you ever had too much?
Oh man. No. I've never drank too much. No, I'm not.
That comes later
I
in
never
the
drank.
career.
You mean like had too much to not be, not to perform on stage? Had too much, or what
Yeah.
we asking?
Just where, yeah, too much to where it like negatively affects your performance or something.
Somebody let me go up at an open mic. I had already done shows, and I did it at the Secret Group where there's like multiple. It's like a multi venue kind of place. Like you can have two shows going on at the same time, and I had just performed in one room, did great or whatever. I was like, all right, let me get another set in, and I went in the green room to hang. And they were like, come on, Trey, you got to go up, man. You going up? And I went up, and I mean, I don't remember the performance, but apparently they said I just shit all over some lady for like the time I was up there.
All your childhood
And
trauma came out. Yeah. Just
yeah, and they're like, it was fun, dude. It was funny. It was like it wasn't your best look, but it was funny.
yeah.
And
Crushed
I
your
was
soul.
like, all right, but I try to make sure, man. No, when I'm up there, I try to, I you know what I mean. I respect the stage.
Yeah.
I respect the stage because I respect the genre. Like I really love this. I'm really passionate about
I
it,
can
and
tell,
like
man.
I
I can
never
tell.
I never want to go up there and be disrespectful when I'm up there. Just what the art form has, what it was able to produce, some of the stuff that's happened just through stand up. I never try to go up there and be disrespectful when I'm on stage. So if I drink, I don't go. I've had a lot to drink and gone on stage. Shit, last Monday I drank a pint of whiskey and I went on stage twice. I was absolutely hammered, but I made
Nice.
sure that I was up. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go up and perform. I'm not gonna stammer and slur all over my. I'm not gonna whatever. I'm gonna deliver what I gotta
Yeah.
deliver. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna be a professional while I'm up here. It's
Yeah,
the
you can
only
be
job
professional.
Yeah.
that if you remain a professional, nobody will know you're fucked up. Yes, it's the only job you
Exactly.
can be fucked up and still be a professional.
Yeah, I mean, you're familiar with Doug Stanhope. He has a whole bit about that. He's like, he's talking about women who were wanting to get him kicked off stage, and he's like, "What the fuck do you want? I'm telling jokes. I'm not driving a fucking bus up here. I'm telling jokes."
Yeah.
So, but I mean, if you can have fun with it, you can control it. I mean, everybody's got to have their fucking Sam Kinison moment. Like I said, you're gonna get all this shit later, like 5 years from now, when you're finally blowing up huge, and then you finally. This will be like a VH1 behind the music thing sometime in the future where they're talking about when you went off the fucking rails.
Man, it was just too much, and I got that fat face. You got that face. You've built like a Keurig now. You're all round and like chubby. They show that picture.
Oh, yeah.
That's the worst one. The chubby face mugshot. You know, probably you just look like a boiled egg. You're like, yep, you had one too many.
Yeah, you're gonna
Hair
have that
sticking up all over your head.
Cat Williams fucking shit going on with we went off the
Oh
rails here.
shit, yeah. Cat goes off
fucking
the
hated
rails
that
on
for that guy.
purpose.
Yeah, I guess.
He goes off the
Yeah,
rails on
Jesus.
purpose. I absolutely love that guy. He's one of the people that I think a lot of people forget to mention. That guy still sells out arenas, and he's just like so good. Like I can't. He's like he talks about the same shit Dave Chappelle talks about, but the
Yes.
way that he expresses it is in the rawest, streetest form. You know, like he says it in the most streetest way ever. This dude set the record for the most bleeps for a stand-up comedy special on Comedy Central. And it was only because of the N word.
Like you were saying, like he
But
does do kind of hack stuff, not hack stuff, but he stuff that other people do, but he does it in his own way.
Yeah.
I fucking
Well,
love
you
that
know,
guy.
there's no hack premise. There's no hack premises. There's only hack
Yeah.
punchlines.
There you go. I like
yeah,
that.
yeah. You could. Uh huh.
No,
You
I
like
was
that
just
what?
saying, like, Joe Rogan has a great fucking tiger bit, but there's no better tiger bit than Cat Williams' tiger bit from like 2008 when
Oh
he had
yeah.
the stool and he's jumping
Yeah, that's
over
the
and he
whole thing of it though. Yeah, that's
that's
the
fucking
whole thing
beautiful,
of it
man.
though. Is what's your angle? That's what we can all hit this subject. We can all hit this type of like what angle. That's what separates the great guys. That's what makes the like this. These are the greatest guys because they touched on an angle that makes everybody else angle look like shit. And theirs is the most original. And sometimes when it's really good, it's like it's almost the most non-debatable.
Yeah,
That you're like,
and
fuck. I also agree with that. That when you said that, that's it.
yeah,
Um,
and you got guys like
great
us
guys.
talking about that bit from 2008, 13 years later,
Yeah.
and we still remember that one bit. So when you do that, you've done something. That has to count for something.
Yes, the lines in that. I still remember the lines in that. The truthful lines in. I like the truths that's in that.
Yeah,
He was like, they got this tiger. If you don't understand what it's like to be a tiger in a cage, the tiger in a zoo, then you don't understand what it's like to be a nigga in America. He was like, cause they got this tiger, this real ass tiger in this fake ass habitat. Real fucking tiger, fake ass habitat. Like the tiger ain't supposed to know that this is a speaker system. And then he lays on the fucking he
exactly,
lays in
exactly.
front of the speaker. Just beautiful shit like that and
Yeah,
yeah, my shit like that, man.
I didn't
You
want to
guys
step on
got a
the.
lot
Yeah,
of
I got a
questions.
question for you.
No, man.
Yeah, well, so do you ever get just feedback or advice from people who aren't comedians and stuff like that, or like just regular family members or something?
No, not. I mean, my dad always is like, he'll find something, be like, I think you might think this is funny. You might could add this in there, and then it'll just be the most homophobic shit ever. You're like, no, dude, I can't fucking do that. Like, no, I can't. It's like shit like that. My mom is somebody I actually wish if I could get her in a certain mood. Like, if I just hung out with her all day, like rode around, she would tag up every idea I have.
Sure.
Like my mom is really. I'm really realizing like, okay, most of my sense of humor comes from my mom, cause she's she's so like she's really funny and like she's. I mean, she just shoots from the hip like my wife does. Like they're very similar, in that regard. My mom just shoots from the hip. She's very honest, but not really anybody from people that's not kind. One thing a dude told me that sticks with me forever. When I was thinking about doing, I was just like kind of halfway doing comedy, half like not a comedian, just really just a low level hobbyist. I remember I was in the break room at this job, and when I came out of the break room, this older dude came up to me. He was like, "Hey man, if I could tell you anything about comedy, man, your jokes is fine." He said, "But it's real life stories. You got to make real life stories funny, man." And he started listing off some of his favorite comics. And I remember at the time being like, "Man, shut up. You don't know anything about whatever." But like now, because I'm like, "You're not into comedy. Get the fuck out of here. I got jokes." And that guy was absolutely right. Like, and that stuck with me. That's something
Yeah.
some advice that somebody's giving me that maybe he was just, I don't know, he just felt like that or he just whatever. But he said that to me, and I was
Hmm.
like, "Yo, I actually appreciate that dude for that." His name was Neil. I actually appreciate him telling me that because that's something I think about that like at least twice a week. I'll think about Neil saying that to me. Real life stories, man. Them jokes is fine, but you got to get up there and tell real life stories. Look at Bernie Mac. He just starts getting real passionate about comedy. Look at Bernie Mac, brother. And he just starts fucking. I'm like, all right, Neil.
Well, Trey, I can recognize a closer when I hear it, man. I think that was a fucking closer right there. Pretty sure that was. It sounded
Okay.
like a man. So you're gonna be at your most hated club here this weekend, right? And then after that,
I'm gonna be at feeling.
Where you gonna be?
Shut up, Jesus, Mike. Mike is the fucking worst. I can
Like
see
second
that,
worst,
dude. You
third, something like
fucking
that. Top.
Mike is the guy that'll cut your brakes.
Can
Go ahead, David. You said something.
Can I ask one more question? Yeah, sorry, I just had another question. But yeah, before we end, because I don't know if it was in your podcast or where I heard it, but I think you said your dad was he's a pastor.
My
Is that
dad is a
right?
pastor. Yeah. Uh huh.
Okay.
That's the question.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, Mike came from a really religious type family too, and I listened to I think a bit you did, or you maybe it was on one of your Instagram videos about that and stuff. I thought that was pretty interesting,
Yeah.
and how that like affected you or kind of made you who you are today.
Um. Yeah. Well, it affected me a lot. I was with my dad all the time, so like I was right there. My dad started. I can't remember when he started preaching, but he started pastoring at like 28 or 29. I was about 7 years old or something like that, and I was just with him all the time. I mean, revivals, the afternoons.
Preach,
I was
brother. I
with
hear
him
you.
all the time watching. You say what?
I
Yeah,
said
you know,
preach. I know
Mike.
exactly what you're
I was
talking
with
about.
I was with him all the time, and I watched all of. I watched. I got to see everything, and one of the things that helped me it's the similarities in working in a comedy circuit and working sort of in that religious circuit as like a pastor that kind of goes around and preaches. It's very similar. Same sort of characters. There's sleazeball preachers. There's guys that are
Sure.
good. There's like it's all. It's just like comics, and it's almost the same sort of drama.
Mm,
The whole shebang, and just watching all of that and um, the way that he, damn, you're kind of making me a little emotional. Think about this right now, but the way that my dad sort of expresses himself, like the I can't explain it, but the way that he preached, the way that he prepared to preach, there's a lot of it. I learned a lot from that as far as my development in
mm-hmm.
comedy goes. Um, just like now at where I'm at, like I want to say something truthful on stage. I don't want to just tell the joke. I want to tell some sort of truth that's connected to that joke every time. I want
Mm-hmm.
lines that either inspire a person or not even necessarily inspire a person. I just want it to sit with a person. I want it to stick with them, and it's watching him do that. Also, when I first got into comedy and I was going out the mics and stuff all the time, my dad has always been bivocational. He's always pastored and worked somewhere else. And his schedule has always been hectic. He worked like, you know, whatever. He worked like 12-hour days. And he would get off from
Mm-hmm.
work and then like have to go teach Bible class or like have to go preach somewhere else. Sometimes he'd have a revival and I would see him like get home at 6 o'clock or get home at like 5:30, 5:45, 6 o'clock, take a quick shower, you know, get dressed, head out the door, and head to this place and sit through the entire service, a black service at that. So on average, it's at least 2 hours. So we're sitting there from like 7:30 to 9:30. He would do that,
Mm-hmm.
get done, get something to eat, go to work, like do the same thing all over again, and then pass on Sundays. So I learned that work ethic of like working and doing stand up, and I really learned that hustle from him. Of like, hey man, if this is what you do it no matter what. No matter what your circumstances is, you always make time to make sure that you do this.
Yeah.
So that's how it's really affected me up to this point.
Yeah. You just before we end, you said something else that I forgot where I heard you say it, but I thought it was pretty interesting. You were talking about when you were really young, you wanted to be a politician
Yeah.
because you. Uh, I'll let you explain it, but I thought that was interesting because I kind of saw things opposite. Like when I looked at politicians when I was um, a kid, I thought, oh man, these people know what they're doing. And then now when I look at a politician, I'm like, look at this motherfucker just bullshitting.
Yeah, the whole time.
Like it just they're lying or wasting time or they don't actually do anything. But it's pretty amazing you saw that early. Like that's why you wanted to do it because right.
Yeah.
Or I'll let you
That's
tell it. I mean,
exactly
you
yes,
tell
you're
it way better
exactly
than I
right.
do.
So all I've been striving to do this whole time Some reason I don't know what happened. Something happened as a kid. I realized like, yo, I don't want to work. Cause you ever realize like when they ask you to think like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do? So my dad would always make me research whatever job that was, like whatever it was. So like I wanted to play sports, and then like I stopped growing. So I was like, I'm probably not gonna play sports. So what's a job that like I could do that's not a job, like that I could just bullshit all the time through it? And I was like, oh, like a politician, because you start looking into like representatives, like what do they do? Where's their like where do they work at? And then I started digging
Mm-hmm.
into it, and you just see them. They're just like sitting in like a seminar most of the days, and then they go in there and they go talk, and you get the. I mean, they literally have a term called filibustering, which just means to bullshit, like out of the point.
Mm-hmm. Just wasting
The
time.
most serious shit that's happened to take place. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna filibuster through this right to vote. So it's like it's almost like wow, like that, like that's like the dream job to just
Yeah.
like I get paid to just go bullshit in a suit all day. The most serious thing that I have to do is get dressed for it. And then I started doing
Yeah.
more research where you find out, damn, there's a lot of dudes that they're in districts that just they're filled with the same type of people, and people are just gonna keep like voting for them. So they got it made. They
Mm-hmm.
actually don't even have to go lobby for shit. They actually don't have to go and do nothing. They are set. They just go to their lake house and be representative number 240 or whatever the hell. So
Yeah, they don't have to work and they'll never get fired.
yeah. So I wanted to be a politician in that regard, and I was working toward that. I was learning all this stuff, and I remember I told my dad, I was like, Dad, I think I'm gonna run for mayor of Pasadena. That's where we lived at, Pasadena. This was pretty much where I grew up at. And my
Mm-hmm.
dad was like, Son, I don't want to crush your dreams, but they're gonna kill your black ass. So I was like, all right. So I stopped doing it. I was like, ah, he's right. He's like, as I really looked into it, I was like, oh yeah, I would definitely die out here. You know what I mean? You start finding out what town you really stay in when you start trying to accomplish things. When you start trying to do something, you like, oh this,
Mm.
oh damn, y'all, oh this how y'all feel for real? Okay, so, um,
Mm.
but yeah, that was a part of it. But I mean, I still ended up landing on something where I could bullshit for a
Yeah,
while.
you seem to be doing well,
Yeah.
man. And I'm going to make you the honorary
Dude,
mayor of Mora, Louisiana.
I would love to be the mayor of Moore, Louisiana.
It's an
I would
unincorporated
change so
community, but
much.
I think for
First
at least
thing,
this week, you're definitely the mayor.
thanks, man. I appreciate that. I'll be over there to poison a lake
Yeah.
and blame it on you, Mike.
I don't have much power, but
Like the lakes ain't
well,
already
just,
poisoned in Mora. I
oh
shouldn't
man,
do
it's
that. Let me
pristine
not
out
shit on
here.
that small town.
God's country.
Already a small town. It's probably the cleanest water available. You know what I mean? Like it's like we
It
get we
probably
get
is.
good lush rain every day. This is lush land,
Yeah,
Trey.
it's filled with deer shit, and it's beautiful out here, man. You'd love it.
And I don't even think they've had COVID out there yet.
It doesn't exist out here.
Dude, I really feel like, because I worked in rural areas and stuff, I really feel like this is like a crazy statement, but I remember I heard a dude say this. He was like, man, COVID ain't coming this far down 45. I remember I heard a fucking dude say that. Like, what? Like, what? Like, you think
Yeah,
COVID
it's just
looked
gonna
at the
stop.
sign, like, ah, shit. How many more hours? We coming from Dallas. Like that's how you think it's traveling. But then I was like, no, but you got a point though. Everybody's kind of spaced out, and
Yeah,
you're not around enough heavily populated areas to really kind of pass the shit to one another.
Mm-hmm.
So those places are like these rural places, people that everybody shit on for not wearing a mask and not this and not that. They're in areas that are they're spaced out. They're already quarantined.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of how life is out here. It's been that way for for my entire life.
Yeah.
Living out here, I've lived in larger
Yeah.
cities, but yeah, living out here in the woods, there's really not a whole lot of concern with the virus that seems to be ravaging the cities. I just like talking like that. I like saying ravaging the cities. Not that I want any cities ravaged.
Yeah, just talk disgustingly. That's what you do, yeah, that's what we do. That's what we do, Mike.
Yeah.
Mike don't care for my sarcasm. I gotta
Hey.
tell you that right now, David.
No, I love the sarcasm. I live in it. I basically swim in it all of the time. And I really do appreciate the fact that you love comedy so much and that you're putting so much into it and you're putting yourself into it, trying to find your own true voice, you know? I really do appreciate it. I love comedy, and I'm glad that I like to see somebody doing it and really trying, man.
Dude, I gotta do a shit. Y'all have a
No, man, and you.
Go ahead, David. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, you actually have a joke that defines me and Mike pretty well because you were saying something one time about certain kind of white people, and when something's funny, they don't just laugh, they just they say, "Oh, that's funny."
Yeah,
you know.
you guys
and I was like,
chuckle
dude,
and comment on it.
That's totally me.
That's all I grew up around, though. That's all I. Somebody said it. Like, man, about 70% of your material is about white people. And I go, yeah, because that's like 70% of the people I grew up around. Like, all I grew up around was white people. And I noticed every gesture, and I'm fascinated with white guy gestures. I'm fascinated with how you guys express yourselves. Because, at least in this country, you guys are, generally speaking, you're very liberated individuals. So it's kind of interesting to watch. It's kind of interesting to watch people express that with having that. You know, like y'all don't have to do anything for the culture, for y'all culture. Like y'all, there's no attachment to. You know, if I do something, I not only got to worry about how white people looking at me, but I got to worry about how black people are looking at me. I got to worry about my family. It's like all this shit, and you just end up being like, well, what do y'all want me to do? Like, you end up having to take a meeting. Like, I had said this, like, I think about this, like, so the movie Django, right? When everybody's getting the roles, Leonardo DiCaprio, like, do you want to be, a slave master? He's like, yeah, sure, I'll play it. Who else is in it? Oh, this is going to be a great film, blah, blah, blah. And all the white characters pretty much the movie is like, yeah, I'll do it, man, it's great. Samuel L. Jackson was the only person that had to, like, have a meeting with his family. Like, hey, y'all, I'm about to do some shit that's, like... Yeah, so it's like all that pressure. So I'm fascinated with watching this sort of liberating, like how do specifically white men, it's like white women are too dramatic to, they're actually my arch nemesis. Skinny white women are my arch nemesis. They are, but I like watching. I'm fascinated with watching white dudes, like a lot of gestures. Like, I like that you guys also, like, here's another thing, like let's say if I was interviewing y'all and I asked you a great question, you guys will say great question right after it. I ask you think Michael Jackson would be, like, the Jacksons would have been the greatest, band had Michael Jackson never left? Like, great question.
That's so true.
You guys, a great question. Depends. If he still fuck those kids, probably not. They probably wouldn't be that good for fans. But you're gonna say that first, dude. Other people of color get frustrated. Don't ask me a good question, cause now you're like making me. Now I'm thinking about everything. Like now, it's a problem. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Why would you ask me that shit, bro? Like, there's people around.
I think it's just because white dudes just don't think of themselves as any kind of tribe. It's like you're just isolated into yourself. I never have.
And
it's just like I just happen to be here.
But I think it's only the American white man. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
If you go anywhere else, people are the other thing. You go to Ireland, everybody there is fucking Irish, and they behave like Irishmen, and they are part of a tribe. You go to, wherever all these places. You go to Denmark, they're all Danish. You go all these different places. But here, it's multiple white men. Like, it's everybody it's the melting pot. And you guys don't latch on and be like, y'all, matter of fact, it's funny to see white dudes look at other white dudes for latching on like that.
Yeah.
That's the funniest shit ever. Like, what the fuck are y'all doing?
I don't want to be in your fucking club.
Be your own.
Yeah, exactly.
You white dudes say shit like this to other white dudes. Man, be your own man. Like, you hear them say shit. You hear them say shit that's actually the blackest that y'all get. When y'all see white dudes grouped together, y'all sound like black men. Like, hey, you need to free yourself, brother. Be your own man. Make your own decisions. You are somebody. Like,
Oh, that's so funny.
yeah, man.
Yeah, no. When I heard that joke that I started the question off with, I showed my wife that because she's been giving me a hard time about that since we've been together. She's like, "Why don't you laugh at anything? You stay silent and then just say that's funny."
Yeah, you
And
can.
I'm like, "Damn, I'd never heard somebody say that joke, but that's so
Yeah,
true."
a lot of people want that bit. I've heard some people be like, "Man, I wish I'd have came up like, man, get out my face." But yeah, it's like one of my favorite jokes. All my favorite bits are white men gestures. I could probably do an hour on just the way white dudes behave. You know, another thing, I'll tell you another thing. This will probably be the last one I can tell you. So I got to fly private with one of my good friends, Grady Pruitt, one of my best friends in comedy, and we got to go out of town and we got to fly private. Not a crazy private, but it was flying private. It was on a nice, comfortable plane with
Hmm.
AC and it was good.
Got that air conditioned plane. I like that.
Snacks and stuff.
Yeah, right. And we're nervous. We're nervous because we've never been on a tiny plane before. Like we've never been on a small plane where you feel all of the flight. You know.
Hmm.
So we're feeling everything. We're feeling every movement. And I'm nervous. I'm straight up yelling. Oh shit! You know what I mean? I'm like just oh damn Grady, look, I'm grabbing shit, right? Nervous. This is all Grady did the whole time. The play with Shaker, he was just go. I know, like a nervous giggle.
Yeah.
That's a white dude trait. That is a straight up white
That's
dude
so
trait.
true.
And in that so much he said, I was like, Grady, you. I said, man, you good? All right, petrified. I was like, okay, like I'm making sure that I ain't tripping. This is a scary flight, right? Because you've been
Right.
giggling the whole time, we in the sand line.
I can never show my emotions. Exactly.
He's like, never,
Wearing this
man.
white
He was like, I was like,
person
what
suit
is
for
that,
30 years.
man? You got like, yeah, man. You want to get a white dude to do anything, just call him a pussy. How you say? The truest running bit in Back to the Future is Biff calling
Yeah.
Marty McFly chicken. That's the truest shit ever. That's the truest shit ever. He
That's
calls him
100%
chicken.
accurate.
Marty ruins his life like white men do. Why,
That's all it took.
why did you cheat on your wife? She called me chicken.
He called me a fucking chicken. I mean, that's
Yeah, you
the
can't call me
basis of my
chicken.
entire
Come on now.
personal life.
You guys don't play that shit, man. And that's all of that. You know, if a white dude drinks and you offer him a chaser, right? You say, "Hey, man, you want to chase that down with something?" That's another. I mean, dude, they'll stop being your friend. I'm not a fucking pussy.
Not me, man.
I can handle
Not
my
me.
liquor. Not you. What you chase your stuff with, Mike?
No, man. I mean, I wouldn't stop being your friend if you offered me a chasers.
Oh,
I'm pretty aware
Oh,
that I'm a
wait.
pussy when it comes to drinking anyway. It's just going to be beer no matter what for me because I can't handle the
Okay.
other stuff. The inner white guy rage
but
comes
your
out.
friends that drink, your hard drinking friends.
Oh, of course.
If you offer them a chaser, I'm not saying they're gonna not be your friend, but they're gonna be pretty upset. They're gonna at least look at you sideways.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
What you
Drink it
mean by
straight. Patron. Out the
Yeah.
bottle.
Drink it out the bottle. Let's go. Anyway, I could go on and on about that. I love to do that.
No, that's good, man. Um, no, man, we appreciate your time. Mike, did you have any other questions or anything you wanted to ask?
No, I wish I could hang out a little bit longer, but I do have some other things I'm going to have to do, man. I appreciate you coming by, and I'll get this episode up and out by, let's see, what is today? Tuesday? I'll get it up by
Okay.
Wednesday evening.
Perfect, man.
And,
Just-
Yeah.
y'all let me know, tag me in it, I'll share
Yeah.
it.
So
And
yeah.
yeah, we'll tag you in it. Where can people find you? Or I mean, we'll tag you in there. But you're on Twitter, Facebook,
I'm
Instagram, all
on
that
everything. Everything at Tre Tutson. All the apps at Tre Tutson. TreTutson. Yeah, I'm on everything, man. But and they can hear me every week
Yeah.
on the Whiskey Brothers podcast, which is
Okay.
on everything.
Okay.
And that we tape that on Mondays, but the episodes come out on Tuesdays and Fridays, audio and video. No, video it's on YouTube as well. best place would go to go and look at it is YouTube. And yeah,
Okay.
that's it, man.
And I do an intro to these things. So if you think of anything else you want to promote, any place you're going to be, just let us know, and I'll add all that shit in there.
Yeah, say you can bring up Phil and Derek's. I'm at Phil and Derek's August 13th and 14th, and August 19th. Doing the Tutson Interruption at Rudyard's at 7:30 p.m. That just mainly that Tutson Interruption show. I kind of want to keep promoting that as much as possible.
Yeah, man. I hope it works out for you, man. I hope it gets bigger and bigger. I really do.
Thank you guys. This was great, man. I thank y'all. This was very therapeutic.
Oh man, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate your
Oh
time.
yeah, for sure. Y'all have a good one, fellas.
Too pop for the rap kids, too rap for the pop kids. Music loud through my neighborhood, all album cuts, no top hits. Neighbors think it's obnoxious. I'm sorry, Mrs. Anderson, but damn, you gon' have to wait until the drop hits. I forgot to take my vitamins, but didn't forget.